news.
What, get knocked out?
Bye, man.
Never.
Bye, man.
Never.
Never.
And this is the thing. And again, I can only speak on what I'm speaking on. This is my opinion. I don't believe somebody took padding out of somebody's gloves. If you are a champion, you're sparring a champion, it's your team's job to make sure the gloves are being checked. You know, as a fighter, I'm asking, what size gloves are you wearing? Okay, I'm looking at your gloves. Everything needs to be in check when you're doing this. And I think, again, is just... It's some stuff is just questionable. I got a lot of questions.
Gotcha.
I got a lot of questions.
So, I mean, from your perspective, is that bad? Is that good? Because it was shocking, right? Mm-hmm. So you watch that video, you see her take a really hard shot, go down. Obviously, you're a boxer, you're a fighter. That's what you do. You take shots, you give shots. Mm-hmm. But from a man to a woman, I think that's where people feel a little...
So this is what I think.
Please, yeah.
These two both agree to spar each other. So that's one thing. Both parties agree. Clarissa's sparring a man at the end of the day. As much as she talks about, I want to fight a man, I'm going to beat a man up, you still have to respect a man and his man's power, period. I don't care. And because you are in the ring with a man and they may be a little better than you, it just looked like Clarissa got caught and got dropped. That's it. And I don't think there was any vicious intent behind it. These two were just sparring. Clarissa got caught. She got back up. And again, Clarissa's going to feel some type of way and say, hey, them gloves, the padding was out of them. Maybe she was embarrassed, and maybe that's why she said what she said. But them two agree to spar.
You know, we could fight kind of thing.
Listen, I would fight Clarissa Shields at 147. If she's calling out MMA girls at 147, me and her can fight at 147.
Don't expect that fight to happen. That fight between Clarissa and Alicia at 147, at any weight, really. But it was refreshing to hear this from a professional boxer, a championship boxer like Alicia Baumgartner, that what Clarissa Shields is proposing is a little hard to digest. Hard to believe that anybody would have to take the padding out of their gloves just to score a knockdown on her.
It's her ego talking. And what Alicia Baumgartner was seen saying here is what we're all thinking.
They have left her, feeling so inclined to just tell it like it is, don't pull any punches, is that last week her and Clarissa Shields were going back and forth on social media, and things got heated. A little bit too heated. Alicia stated, what I don't get is how one competitive athlete can't simply challenge another in a sport they're both pros at and not have it turn into a conflict, unless she already had a problem with me. This is a sport. We do this for a check. Ain't nobody fighting because they're mad. Ain't no room for hurt feelings out here. Let's get this money.
Things got heated last week between them, perhaps went a little bit too far.
Seems like Clarissa took it personal that Alicia stated she would be willing to move up in weight to fight her, so long as Clarissa would be willing to move down, and where Alicia looks at it is just business.
Clarissa took it personal. What stood out to me was when Alicia said, unless she already had a problem with me.
You know, up until Alicia Baumgartner won the Michaela Mayer fight, it was Michaela Mayer that Clarissa was palling around with because they were part of the same amateur team back when they were amateurs. And up until that point, she was palling around with Michaela. Alicia wins the fight, then all of a sudden she starts palling around with Alicia. I wondered how Michaela felt about that.
Some friend, some Olympic sister.
It was a dark moment for Michaela Mayer because, you know, she felt that she deserved to win, but she didn't get the decision. She suffers her first professional loss, and her Olympic sister, quote unquote, is palling around with the woman who beat her, except now the woman who beat her says,
one competitive athlete can't simply challenge another in a sport they're both pros at and not have it turn into a conflict, unless she already had a problem with me.
Perhaps Clarissa did. It seems like Clarissa's got a problem with everybody. You just have to stay around her long enough, Alicia Baumgartner included. Alicia said, I'm grown. I don't have to ask for permission to speak my mind. They asked the question, and I gave my answer. She made it personal because I was challenging her, period. Run that soft shit somewhere else.
Back and forth between Clarissa and Alicia has helped to take some of the attention away from that sparring session everybody was talking about last week where Clarissa got sat on her ass.
Word around town now is that she's got beef with Alicia just because Alicia entertained a fight with her. A fight that she was asked about and a fight that she'd be willing to have at 147. That's all it ever was.
You can't say anything about Clarissa without it turning into an international incident unless you're prepared to fall to your knees and grovel at her feet, licking her ass and kissing her ass.
I don't think Alicia was about to do that. At the center of all these conflicts, from 1 week to the next, from 1 month to the next, whether you're talking about arguing with Cyborg, or arguing with Alicia, or accusing Derek Santos of removing the padding from the gloves.
At the center of all of it is Clarissa's ego. Her ego is out of control. She's an egomaniac. There's a thin line between backing yourself and believing in yourself and being confident and being overbearing, being insufferable. I mean, Alicia's confident, but she's a lot better with people than Clarissa.
Can't chalk it up to a fighter's mentality and just being a confident athlete when there are many confident athletes that don't rub people the wrong way, the way that Clarissa does. It's like she demands tribute.
You want we should build you a church on 72nd and Broadway? Would that make you happy?
Perhaps not. At the center of Clarissa Shields' misery, because she seems miserable to me, the way she's always having these altercations with anybody who stays around her long enough. At the center of that misery,
It's her ego. She's got to get her ego in check because it's out of control.
men's flyweight news, Bam Rodriguez on the heels of his big win this past weekend. I have a daughter on the way. I can't wait for her to be here and tell her about this fight.
And what a fight it was. Both guys gave a great account of themselves. I mean, Sonny took a beating, he did, but he showed what he's made of. He showed his heart.
I knew this fight would not only change my life, but my daughter's life as well, Rodriguez said during the post-fight press conference after his DAZN aired victory Saturday at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. It would set her up for better opportunities and better things. I had a lot of motivation going into this fight. I have a daughter on the way. I can't wait for her to be here, to meet her, and to tell her about this fight. Bam is a boxer-puncher. A dynamic boxer-puncher with layers and subtleties to his game. That's why I trusted that if push comes to shove and he's faced with a pure boxer, he will be able to make the necessary adjustments, unlike some other boxer-punchers. Even among boxer-punchers, and just every base style there is, there are levels, there are tiers.
A level, B level, C, D, E, and even within those levels, there are tiers within them. A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus.
No, it goes, what Bam Rodriguez showed me this weekend is what the really good fighters, the really elite guys tend to show, that they've got more than one base style.
It's not one-dimensional. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and Bam knows how.
This fight was the biggest win of my career, of my life, acknowledged Rodriguez. My last two performances, a lot of the media was writing me off. They were saying I was a hype job, this and that. That on top of winning another title in a unification bout against an undefeated champion is just, it's as big as it gets. That's why I was so emotional after the fight. And he is right. Bam's last 1 or 2 performances before the Sonny Edwards fight, they weren't nothing to write home about. He didn't seem like the same guy that upset the apple cart for Carlos Quadras and saw Rumvisai up there at super flyweight. It seemed like Bam was losing his luster and losing his steam, but this fight, it really got him out of bed. It really motivated him, and you could see that in how he was fighting. Now Bam is eager to face Juan Francisco Estrada for the 115-pound crown, dismisses any chance of fighting Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez, a close friend to him. I'm not surprised.
It's a fight that's been pitched the last year or so since Bam came into the spotlight. It's a fight that's often been talked about, though I don't expect to see it happen.
The one fighter he won't touch is legendary 4-division champion and longtime friend, Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. People always ask that. There is a lot of respect between me and Chocolatito, Rodriguez explained during the post-fight press conference Saturday at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. Mr. Honda, head of Taken Promotions, who promotes both fighters, I don't think he would like that too much. Every time people ask me that, I just say, I don't think it's a possibility. It is a great fight. The respect is there between us. Estrada is a great champion too, and I believe that's an even bigger fight.
Jesse Bam Rodriguez has proven himself to be a legend killer of sorts, jumping up 2 weight classes to take on Carlos Quadras on short notice for what was the newly vacated WBC title. He left a lasting impression in that fight.
Carried over into the Sor Rungvisai fight, yet another one of the 4 kings at super flyweight.
Now he's going for 3. He wants Juan Francisco Estrada.
Juan Francisco Estrada, who let it be known he wasn't blown away with what he witnessed in the ring from Bam this past Saturday. He always has something to say about my performances, noted Rodriguez when made aware of Estrada's comments. He claims that I'm a hype job and I'm not as good as people say. Why not get inside the ring with me and prove it to the people?
It's unfortunate, because Juan Francisco Estrada was supposed to be having a unification match with one of the other champions at Super Flyweight, 4-division champion Kazuto Ioka, but the fight fell apart, and I heard it was because of the money. Juan wanted more money.
You will correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I heard it. I've always viewed Kazuto Ioka as the 5th Beatle of sorts. You often hear about the 4 kings: Carlos Quadras, Chocolatito, Juan Francisco Estrada, and Sor Rungvisai. But Kazuto Ioka is just as much a part of that scene as those guys are.
And just as decorated, he's a 4-division champion, the same as Chocolatito, with some noteworthy scalps, though because he primarily fights out of Japan, you don't often hear him talked about in the West. And he was supposed to be unifying titles with Juan.
That fight fell apart for whatever reason it fell apart. But what's noteworthy is that was a more even fight between 2 legends at these weights than this fight with Bam would be for Juan Francisco Estrada. I already had my reservations about an Ioka versus Estrada fight because Juan Francisco Estrada hasn't fought in over a year. He hasn't fought since the Chocolatito trilogy.
In December of last year, this year will have come and gone without Juan Francisco Estrada getting a fight in. Thus, if the plan has shifted over to a Bam Rodriguez fight, you better get a tune-up fight in.
I had my reservations about an Ioka versus Estrada fight, but in hindsight, this fight with Bam is a lot more dangerous for Juan Francisco Estrada than that fight would have been. Bam is 23, whereas Juan is 32, and 32 may not seem that old, but we're talking about super flyweights, and we're talking about a fighter who's had roughly 47 professional bouts, many of them wars, many of them physically taxing fights.
Now, what Bam wants to do is vacate the 2 titles he's got at flyweight to move back up to super flyweight. And what he wants, what he really wants, is for Juan to put his critiques and his money where his mouth is.
Will Juan Francisco Estrada do it? He already walked away from the Ioka fight. That fight's dead in the water. But this fight, this could be a big fight here stateside.
Something to look forward to next year.
And finally, per a tweet from boxing insider Rick Glacier, being told by a very reliable source, Gervonta Davis doesn't want to get back in the ring for what's being offered by Al Haymon. After making that big windfall versus Ryan Garcia, sounds like another fighter that bases their value off of one fight. But that one fight was a total anomaly. That's boxing in this era. So often when Rick Glacier imparts this intel to us, the consumers, via his inside sources, there are some who immediately dismiss it just because it's coming from him, taking no time out to question whether or not what he's saying is true, to question the validity of what he is suggesting.
You don't have to like Rick or what he's saying for what he's saying to be true. Gervonta made a lot of money in his last fight, more money than he's ever made for any other fight before it.
But what the hell makes you think that he's gonna make that same kind of money every time he gets out there with everyone? You know, Rayo Valenzuela, Rayo ain't Ryan. Isaac ain't Ryan.
That's what I've been telling you.
It was back in October when we first heard that a rematch between Isaac and Gervonta was being discussed per Cruz's representative, Sean Gibbons. And I said it then. For all these people running around calling Gervonta the new face of boxing, we'll see what he is and what he ain't in his next fight, because what you did in your last one, you're pretending that Ryan had nothing to do with that. That's what Ali Sekbak has been doing, one of Gervonta Davis's biggest supporters.
This past weekend, while taking a swipe at Devin Haney and how his fight performed at the box office. He said Haney's last pay-per-view, everyone is saying it did 50,000. Gervonta's last pay-per-view, that did 1.3 million.
Ryan caught wind of this by way of his own social media, and he's tired of people pretending that Gervonta did those numbers on his own. He responded by saying, "I had some good moments with you, Ellie, but I'm not going to have you come around any gym of mine, and I'm not answering any questions from you or any of your reporters. The way you are trying to portray that Tank on his own did those numbers is remarkable in the worst way."
In case you're not aware, veteran boxing scribe Ellie Seckbach has an ongoing feud with the Haneys. You know, he's a big Gervonta Davis fan, so he regularly talks Devin Haney down. Bill Haney responded by calling him a culture vulture, and just, they're not on good terms.
So the way it breaks down, Ellie Seckbach is basically another arm of promotion for Gervonta Davis. So much so, he carries on as if Gervonta Davis sold that 1.3 million off his name alone, when we all know Ryan Garcia had a lot to do with that. That's not saying that Ryan is the face of boxing. That's not saying that Ryan is going to turn around and do numbers like that on his own. That's saying that he helped.
That's saying that people need to stop pretending that Gervonta Davis sold that thing on his own. Gervonta was on pay-per-view 5 times before he fought Ryan, and never once did he sell 1 million or even 500,000.
So people need to stop giving him all the credit, because moving forward, he's going to struggle to do numbers like that with anybody else. And that's what this recent rumor from Rick Glacier suggests, that Gervonta Davis is thinking that he's going to make in his next fight what he made in the Ryan Garcia fight.
Go ahead, put him in there with Ryo, or put him in there with Isaac again, and watch how dramatically things change.
Critical thinking and critical thinking skills require you to look at all sides, all angles of a situation. So if you think about Rick's angle, whether you agree with Rick or not, what you have to consider is Gervonta's not going to do 1.3 million with everybody that's out there. He's not going to do 1.3 with Ryo or Isaac or Frank Martin or Edwin De Los Santos. And because of that, maybe there's something to what Rick is suggesting.
Just made a lot of money with Ryan. He wants to keep making a lot of money. The problem is, everybody ain't Ryan. Now, there is a $20 million offer on the table for you to fight Devin Haney in Saudi.
You seem stuck on weight stipulations that Devin is not going to adhere to, and that is your best bet to keep making that kind of money. That if what Rick is saying is true, and Gervonta's not happy with what Al has to offer him, his best bet is to jump ship and go to Saudi.
Want to make money? There's plenty of money out there, but you've got to be willing to roll the dice.